Tales of Herding Gods Episode 79. In the previous episode, Qin Mu and his companions found themselves trapped within the eerie black fog surrounding the surging river, where the Great Mountain Sect was performing forbidden rituals. In a swift and brutal battle, Qin Mu's team wiped out a group of Taoists who had been guarding a sacrificial altar. But their victory came too late. Elsewhere, another ritual had succeeded. From the blood-red light and thunderous sky, a colossal devil god emerged, towering higher than the mountains, wreathed in lightning and flames. Realizing the danger, Qin Mu ordered his team to disguise themselves as members of the Great Mountain Sect. They escaped the collapsing battlefield, only to encounter a vast rebel army on the march. To survive, Qin Mu bluffed his way through the ranks, convincing a Seven Stars realm general that they were survivors who had already summoned a devil god to aid the war. His cunning bought them a brief reprieve, but not without consequence. Now, under the general's command, Qin Mu and his group are sent to Heaven Wave City, where they will once again be forced to summon another devil god. And the story continues. Heaven Wave City? Qin Mu and the rest had a slight change in expression. They felt as though they had just escaped from a wolf's den, only to step into the jaws of a tiger. General Xiaoyi, smiling faintly, praised their supposed spell from the Great Mountain Sect and assigned an officer named Lin Ding to accompany them. When the army departed, Lin Ding led Qin Mu and his group toward Heaven Wave City. Lin Ding was talkative, praising their ability to summon a devil god and remarking that such a feat could bring their fallen sect back to glory. Qin Mu responded modestly, cleverly probing Lin Ding's cultivation level. Lin Ding admitted that he was at the peak of the Seven Stars realm but had not yet broken through to Celestial Being realm. He explained with some pride that war was the best forge for improvement, that in times of chaos, when powerful practitioners clashed and their philosophies collided, divine arts and techniques would evolve. The pressure of life and death, he said, was the true catalyst for progress. Qin Mu and the others listened carefully. His words made sense, and they reflected on how simple, overlooked spells, like the Soul Guide and the Ghost Transferring God Dispatching Runes command, had changed the tide of entire battles. What was once thought useless had become devastatingly powerful when applied at the right time. Yet despite the lesson, they were all nervous. Lin Ding was no fool. His cultivation and experience far surpassed theirs. If he noticed anything suspicious, their disguise as Great Mountain Sect disciples would be exposed, and they would die miserably. Even worse, if they reached Heaven Wave City and failed to summon a devil god, they would also die. No matter how they looked at it, the path ahead seemed hopeless. Qin Mu silently calculated their odds. Perhaps, if they attacked Lin Ding together, they could kill him, but the chances were slim. The officer's strength and his battle technique school training made him nearly impossible to ambush. When a band of fierce bandits attacked along the road, Lin Ding easily destroyed them with a single strike. A flash of thunder burst from his palm, obliterating dozens of men in an instant. The display made Qin Mu's heart sink. As they continued, Qin Mu inquired about General Xiaoyi's background. Lin Ding explained proudly that the general was once the crown prince of the fallen Justice Exist country and now bore the title of Prince Xiaoyi. With the world in turmoil, an imperial preceptor disrupting the balance of power, Xiaoyi sought to reclaim his lost empire, and Heaven Wave City was his key stronghold. When they finally arrived, the city was a breathtaking sight. Built upon mountains that jutted into the surging river, its cliffs faced roaring waves that smashed against the rocks with earth-shaking force. Spray exploded upward like pearls scattering into the clouds, the waves themselves rising to the heavens, giving the city its name. Within Heaven Wave City, rebel soldiers crowded the battlements, preparing for battle against the Eternal Peace Army across the river. Lin Ding introduced the city's commander, the Dragon King of the Dragon Rider sect, a cult master-level existence. Though the Dragon King's personal strength was not supreme, he commanded a powerful flood dragon capable of slaying practitioners of the life and death realm. Soon, a brightly dressed figure appeared, the Dragon King's son, Long Jiaonan, a striking and flamboyant youth with painted face and seductive mannerisms. When Long Jiaonan's gaze landed on Qin Mu, there was a flicker of recognition. Qin Mu quickly lowered his head. He remembered the encounter vividly. Back when he and Wei Yang had barely escaped with their lives after Long Jiaonan's serpent mount massacred everyone aboard their riverboat. Lin Ding introduced Qin Mu's group as disciples of the Great Mountain Sect who had previously summoned a devil god to aid the army. Long Jiaonan's eyes gleamed with amusement. Summoning the devil god? How interesting, he purred, offering to provide whatever materials they needed. Qin Mu, seizing the opportunity, calmly requested a large white bone altar, 13 by 13 yards wide, constructed entirely from bones and skulls. Each skull's eye sockets facing upward. Long Jiaonan laughed and promised to arrange it, casually suggesting that if there weren't enough bones, they could always kill a few townspeople to make up the difference. Once the preparations were complete, the altar stood gleaming white in the city lord's manor. Long Jiaonan dismissed the soldiers and stationed them outside the courtyard, leaving Qin Mu and his companions alone to perform the ritual. But escape was impossible. Over 100 guards surrounded the area. On the altar, Chen Wanyan turned to Qin Mu, voice low and respectful, finally addressing him as Senior Uncle Qin. The others followed his lead. Qin Mu met their anxious gazes and said solemnly, "Of course we summon the devil. Invite the devil god over." Yun Ke protested fearfully, reminding him that none of them truly knew the summoning spells. But Qin Mu calmly replied that he had learned them and would handle it alone. Normally, it required 13 people, but he believed he could manage by himself. When Yun Ke hesitated again, worrying that the Eternal Peace Empire would execute their families if a devil god attacked, Qin Mu assured him there must be safeguards in the ritual, otherwise, even the summoners would perish. Then, with a steely resolve, he added that if they turned the summoned devil god against Heaven Wave City itself, they could use the chaos to escape. He placed the devil god's sculpture at the center of the altar, planted the white banners at the corners, and began to chant. Vital chi flowed from his body, lifting 13 talisman treasures into the air, each inscribed with runes. The glowing talismans circled the sculpture as Qin Mu spoke in ancient, resonant language, deep, guttural sounds that reverberated through the bones of the altar. It was the devil language. Runes shimmered across the talismans, reflecting onto the sculpture, lighting it piece by piece. The air grew heavy and cold. Controlling 13 talismans, each bearing hundreds of runes, would have overwhelmed an ordinary man. But Qin Mu's mind was sharp and disciplined. His mastery of memory arts from the computational canon of supreme mystery allowed him to perform the task with precision. An hour passed. Over half the sculpture's runes were aglow, and Qin Mu could feel it, a faint connection forming. Somewhere in the depths of space and time, a being stirred in response to his call. And just as that connection deepened, a group of Taoists appeared outside Heaven Wave City, carrying another devil god's sculpture. They too were from the Great Mountain Sect, the real disciples. Officer Lin Ding, unsuspecting and cheerful, went to greet them with a smile. "You've come just in time," he said warmly. "Your junior brothers and junior sisters are already summoning the devil in the city. It's been quite some time." And that wraps up this episode. In this part, we saw Qin Mu and his companions thrown into an even greater danger as they arrived at Heaven Wave City. Believed to be surviving disciples of the Great Mountain Sect, they were ordered to summon a devil god to aid the rebel forces, a mission that was, in truth, impossible for most of them. Still, Qin Mu's quick wit and steady composure kept their disguise intact. Throughout their journey, Officer Lin Ding's strength and confidence reminded Qin Mu how vast the gap was between them and true experts. The officer's ability to destroy a group of bandits with a single strike made it clear that any mistake would mean instant death. Yet Qin Mu kept a calm facade, listening, learning, and silently plotting their escape. When they reached Heaven Wave City, a fortress built upon roaring cliffs where waves struck the rocks like thunder, they met Long Jiaonan, the flamboyant and cruel heir of the Dragon Rider sect. Qin Mu recognized him as the same person who had once attacked his riverboat. But he dared not reveal his fear. Instead, he cleverly requested a giant altar made from human bones. claiming it was needed to summon the devil god. Long Jiaonan, intrigued and vicious, granted the request without hesitation. Once the altar was complete, Qin Mu and his allies found themselves surrounded, unable to flee. Taking control of the situation, Qin Mu began the summoning himself. He set up 13 talisman treasures, recited an ancient devil language, and slowly awakened the runes carved into the devil god's sculpture. His voice echoed across the altar as strange, dark energies began to stir, a sign that something beyond the mortal world was listening. Just when it seemed the ritual was nearing completion, fate turned once again. A group of real Great Mountain Sect Taoists arrived outside the city, carrying another devil god sculpture. Officer Lin Ding, believing everything was going as planned, went out to greet them with a smile, unaware that Qin Mu's ritual inside the city might soon unleash chaos far beyond his imagination. If you enjoyed this episode or found it fascinating, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel to get updates on the newest episodes in Qin Mu's journey. Thank you so much for watching. See you again in the next episode.